When you think of Switzerland, Basel probably isn't the first place that comes to mind. But after this episode, you might see it in a whole new light. We originally came for a cooking class and ended up discovering a city full of charm, culture, and incredible food. Thank you. From its picturesque old town to a thriving art scene, Basel is a hidden gem that absolutely deserves a spot on your European travel bucket list. So, let's dive in. We just arrived to Basel and it's about 10-minute walk to the hotel. Speaking about the hotels, these were the three options we considered for this trip. This was the first option and it looked so luxurious and nice and the location was perfect, but then we read some reviews that complained about the tramway noise and we ultimately decided not to go with this one. The second contender was this hotel. It had this beautiful rooftop view and very cool design, but it was a little further away from the train station. So the one we ended up with is this third option I'm about to show you. Just checked in, the room is really nice. It's actually looks so much better in person than in photos. We had some doubts when we looked at the listing because it looked too colorful and overwhelming, but in reality it's actually very stylish. So we've got this bed, which is kind of the main piece in the room, and then we have a few sitting areas. So there is this one, which is with some little tables. You can take breakfast or even if you had a meal, a proper sitting area. Here you have a second chair to sit around and you can lounge in it. So yeah, it's plenty of nice sitting areas. And here we have the camera, which is this Insta Fujifilm camera and you can use it for free. You just need to buy a roll at the reception and it's 15 francs, which is about $15, which I think is super cool. And in the bathroom, they also have this basket. It's kind of cool how they packed it. Let me show you. And then they also have plenty of small amenities, like there's a whole basket with L'Occitane products. It's not very dramatic though. I thought it would be more dramatic. Here you go.
The close-up made it more dramatic.
So there's a lot of little details like this. They have this coloring book, which is super cool. And then last but not least, we have a balcony as well. Today we're just exploring the city. We didn't do too much planning because we had such a short time, so we decided to be spontaneous and just kind of explore what's around. And luckily our hotel is kind of in the middle of different points of interest, and so we're just going to make the most out of the sunny day and explore some of the Basel city center. But before we go, let me show you the rest of the hotel. It's kind of a fun hotel. They pay a lot of attention to details with these fun messages, the tea station outside of your room, a lot of different spaces where you can feel comfortable. I like this library where you can read a book, relax and just enjoy. They also have a beautiful restaurant and I'm gonna show you a bit more of it taking breakfast tomorrow. And as for now, let's go explore that. I have a few spots that we saved on the map and we're gonna try one of the coffee shops that's nearby. The coffee looked good on the photos. Unfortunately, it wasn't great when we tried it, but I could definitely recommend to come here if you like the Italian sweets like the cannelloni. After finally getting a good cup of coffee, we had more energy to explore more of the city on our way to lunch. House of Small Somebody. What I really loved about it is just how colorful and bright it is, all the street art. The Beatles mural definitely being the most impressive. Looks pretty realistic. And also this guy hanging off the rooftop. Originally we thought it was actually real people, but then when you look closer you can see that it's a statue. As we walked up some appetite, we found this cool place for lunch. They have sandwiches, so that's a promising thing. We just finished lunch in the place across the street. It has Scandinavian sandwiches. It was really good. How much did you pay?
37.
37 for 2 sandwiches and soup. Okay, I wanted to say reasonably priced, but I guess it is for Switzerland. So. We just passed by this cafe and it looked like they have food. And then we entered and we were trying to figure out what's going on. We asked the owner and he was whispering because apparently it's a silent cafe. So you just come and be silent there. When you discover and you come for the first time, you kind of feel that you cannot stay. I'm a bit confused how you order, but I feel like it's cool to have a place like this. Silent coffee. It's time to explore a bit of historic side of Basel. And as we ventured out a little further away, we decided to take a tram. And when it comes to public transportation, there is one super cool thing. It's called Basel Card. This kind of cards exist in many major cities, but in most places, this is something you pay for. And in Basel, this is completely free with any reservation of any hotel. So this card has a few very cool benefits for visitors. Free transportation all over the city, half price on a lot of museums and attractions, and a special offer on a guest bike in Basel. And so we took a tram to get us to Old Town of Basel, where we could explore must-visit places, starting with Theater Basel. We're in front of the most unusual fountain I've ever seen. Usually the fountains are very static, and so this one is very non-typical. And the reason it's all moving is because the architect was a pioneer of kinetic arts. And he wanted to make something very fun and unusual to symbolize theater and performances. And it was built when the Basel Theater was demolished. So this is where it used to be. So it's a side of Basel Theater. Most of the materials were actually recycled from what used to be Basel Theater. It's a cool piece of art. So if you're in Basel, definitely come check it out. Next up is the Historic Museum of Basel, and it ranks among the most important museums of cultural history. We were late in the day, so we only got to enjoy the outside, but if you're into history, you should definitely include this one in your itinerary. We're in front of the Munster Church. It's one of the main landmarks in the city, but unfortunately we don't get to see it because it's too late and it's closed today, and I'm not sure we will be able to see it tomorrow morning. But we've learned some cool facts about it. It's actually pretty old. It was built in Gothic times and it was first uncovered in the 11th century, destroyed by an earthquake, and rebuilt in the 13th century. Among the very beautiful architecture that you can see from the outside, the coolest piece is actually a sundial clock. It's been used at a time, no longer in use, but they just preserved it for historic value and aesthetics. And when you look at it, it's actually pretty cool. 2 pins that stick out at an angle, and then depending on sun position, it just shows you time. It's pretty unusual and nice thing to see. Well, at least that we got to see. Next time we should probably check the schedule. It seems like I spoke too soon, so while we didn't get to see the church inside, there's inner courtyard that has plenty of architectural pieces, ancient inscriptions, and most of all, the beautiful view from the terrace. So if you are like us and you don't plan in advance, you still get a chance to see the architectural beauty from this church. This was a wrap of our city discovery, and then we headed to dinner. Had a recommendation for mirai, and it definitely worth the hype. If you're in the neighborhood, definitely try mirai ramen. We're at the breakfast, and they have a bunch of cool machines. The coolest is the scrambled eggs. It's a cool process. Taste-wise, it suffers a little bit, but experience-wise, it's pretty cool. So the breakfast was just a cherry on top for this hotel. We really enjoyed it, and if you're in Basel, I can definitely recommend Nomad Design Hotel. After breakfast, we checked out and head to our cooking class experience. And I dedicated a separate episode to this one. Make sure to watch it next. And after the cooking class, we headed to the train station, and there is one cool place I wanted to share with you there. Before we leave, we also found a cool coffee shop right at the train station.
Best coffee of the trip.
Best coffee of the trip so far. So if you're ever in Basel and looking for a coffee spot, come here. So we're on the train, and it means it's the end of our trip. I can definitely recommend Basel as a weekend destination. It's a really small but beautiful town with a lot of history and museums, and close by train from the major cities like Paris and Zurich. I think it's about 20 minutes, right? And I hope it inspired you and gave you some ideas. See you back in Paris.